like a daddy Mac. Dang's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play. Option Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Is that a special guest, Troy?
We have a very special guest with us. Fed President Jerome Powell, welcome to the OO show. He is, now guys, I'm going to tell you straight away, he is not shy, but this guy is so dependent on data. He is so data dependent. I don't think he's going to say a word unless he gets the data to say it. So President Powell, if you get any data that could lead to speaking, please let me know. Otherwise, we're just honored to be here with you. So.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
this is the original Moneyball.
That's right. That guy, you know, you're trying to put socks on. You say, I'm data dependent. The wife says, hey, we haven't been on a date in 3 years. I want you to take me out, Jerome. He says, listen, honey, I'm data dependent, baby.
And now he's meeting the most undata dependent human being that ever lived, President Trump.
Oh, yeah.
And see, to me, in this conference, there's no way he can make it through the whole conference without some kind of snarky remark or something, right, about what's going on, because it's just, he's human, right? He hears this batter, he hears these arrows shot at him, and he's got to say, you know, and I've called him kind of John Wayne. You know, he sticks with what he's going to do, and not even President Trump is going to ruffle him, but inside he's got, I mean, I'm hoping for a good snarky remark.
Now you're going to make him cocky, giving him that praise. Jerome, listen. He just stares at you like that. That's exactly what every parental figure would look at. You know,
Troy,
like
I really would. He looks like he needs a good, like one of those Raleigh fingers mustaches. You know, one of those good. He would just be.
It's true. It's like, hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Do you care if I take the car out for a couple? I know I've wrecked it a couple times, but me and the buddies want to go out.
Yeah, me and 6 buddies in the car.
Yeah, that's the look.
Yeah, that's the
look he would give me right there.
Yeah, it's the death look. Yeah.
He told me to come home at he told me to come home at like 10:30. I show up at 11. Yeah. I just walk in the front door just to this face right there. That's that guy.
That's right. That's a look. That's a look.
Anyway, well, guys, listen. Pacers are moving on. The Knicks are not moving on yet.
Not yet.
The Timberwolves are moving on.
Timberwolves are moving on.
And so what's left is Knicks, Celtics, and Nuggets, Oklahoma City.
Troy, Matt, can I just say one thing? Why don't we treat the NBA like the Premier League, where I'm a Chicago Bulls fan? You know, I'm not convinced they could beat 3 or 4 of the top college teams, and I'm like, why can't we demote them? Really, if you want,
you know, people have floated this idea. There's a minor league for the NBA's, which has gone through multiple name changes. It used to be the Development League. Now it's the Gatorade League or the G League, I think. And people have floated that before, but unfortunately, because they're kind of a feeder team, I don't think we could see that. But listen, I love some volatility. Yeah. If I was commissioner, I would make some major changes. I would add some volatility back in. I would change the All-Star game. I would change the length of the season. I would change the draft. I would change the incentives. It would be very data-driven.
Yes. Matt would be – Troy, I'll vote for it. I think Matt would be a heck of a president.
Data-driven volatility. That's what I'm about.
I think he'd be a great commissioner. I do think that 50 – I think they should go down to 50 games. And people –
much better product at 50 games.
Dan, here's the thing. I know there's some old school people. John Stockton played multiple 82 game seasons. I get that. Here's the thing. There's some science to back this up. I don't have it in front of me, but I too am data dependent. And these guys, the way that the game is played now with like those step back threes and the amount of threes they take, there is some science to say it actually is a more dangerous game.
Oh, for sure.
Thus you see the injuries just piling up.
Because the stepping back, you mean that the more, I never thought of that. So more injuries like with
you see a lot of non-contact injuries now, whereas before, those guys would just beat the crap out of each other. You'd get Bill Laimbeer just stepping on an ankle.
Yeah. So you say it's more dangerous with the 3 game.
Yeah.
Yeah. More dangerous with the 3 game. And people say, well,
it's tail risk. I think what you're talking about is tail risk. Like what you really are talking about is for people who aren't Americans basketball sports fans, this has some application. So the idea of Nassim Taleb, who's a famous tail risker, kind of popularized, coined the term black swan. One of the examples he gives is it more dangerous? This directly relates to both the NBA and trading. Is it more dangerous to jump off a 1 meter ledge 10 times or a 10-meter ledge 1 time? Right. So the answer is obviously it's more dangerous to do the higher thing, even if you do it less frequently. I think the idea of tail risk in the NBA is the game used to be very physical, but the physical interactions they had were maybe closer to the 1 meter in this example. And so when guys would get into a fight, I mean, you can get into a fight, but it's probably just going to be the worst case was typically some blood, maybe a broken nose. And now the game has evolved to where players are doing more athletic things that stress the body in different ways. And because of the specialization in these athletes, and they specialize in sports so early, they're not as well-rounded physically, that opens up the tail risk for these more extreme results. So the liberation day of the NBA, so to speak, where the market almost limits down and has 200-300 point candles for weeks. So you see more of these injuries that have a higher result. The risk reward is a different scenario.
Well, and I'll say this. I mean, Matt's being very kind to tie it to trading for those international people who are like, I don't like basketball. But for those international people who don't like basketball, soccer sucks. And I'll just say it.
Unbelievable.
If we lose people, we lose people. But sometimes you gotta stand up for what's right. You know what I'm saying? In America, sometimes you gotta stand up for what's right.
Man, anyway. I was taken aback by that one. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm gonna fight Troy on this one. I'm a passive soccer fan. So
are you?
That's what. But no, that's fine because that's how every soccer fan is.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, that's another discussion. And
well, we're calling it. I mean, the tell is that we're calling it soccer, guys.
I agree. I mean,
is it international? The chat's going to get angry here.
I'll say this: for raising kids and having them to keep them from being, too overweight, it's a great sport.
Lots of running. Yes.
What we haven't got that. I mean, it is. If my son wasn't playing, it's a bit torturous to watch. I mean, you watch it for 90 minutes, maybe you get a score. I don't know. I mean, I know.
The other thing about it, and the reason it's going to be a challenge in the US is they can't figure out how to do the ads, and well, yeah, I mean, you have a 45-minute half with no official break. And I hope they don't do what the NBA has started doing, which is the dumbest thing ever, which is running ads during the game. So
you're right. They do that.
So see, we got cancellations rolling in the chat.
Let me backtrack.
Listen, I'll just say this, Damien. My kids were talking about PSG this morning in the car. So I have a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old. So they're fully educated.
Let me backtrack for a second.
Troy, do you want to pull that one? Or
I want to listen.
It was Stephen A. Smith.
Upon reflection, what I said was insensitive. I've got to go away for a minute and do some soul searching on my part.
He's going to double down on it, folks.
He's going to double down.
Listen. I teach my kids sports that all Americans should know. Riding 4-wheelers and smoking cigars. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask about this stuff.
Writing more Wheelers.
So anyway, before Damien, shout out football, football, European football. Shout out. You know, the skill is insane. I will give them that. If you're from America and you've seen American soccer, it's lacking. So anyway, all right. So on that note, before we lose the whole audience,
is Jpow is speaking right now. That when we had him on earlier, that was just a quick break because he's actually, we had him some news this morning. We had PPI, and we have Powell speaking now about supply shocks, and VIX might be up at open.
Well,
on a Thursday.
We've reached
kind of
the
exciting.
Point, we've reached the point where like the market has now reverted to the mean enough to where we're down 22, and we're like, hey, market's in turmoil. This is vol right here, down 22 on the open. So guys, listen, we've been continuing this small account challenge thing.
Yeah.
And
the sack.
Easy.
Right? That's what we're calling it, right?
I guess.
I think so.
I guess.
Chat, are we calling this the sack or not?
Don't ask the chat about the sack. Anyway, all right. So, Matt, we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about our small account challenge again today. But I'm going to say this real quick. I'm going to give a huge shout out to the chat and to the people who watch, and really why I love the community of Option Omega, because a lot of services, we talked about this yesterday, and we will do this, heads up, but we will have Lambos soon in our advertising. We will be renting jets to take pictures in. We will
horses.
We will. Dan wants horses. We will consider horses for sure.
Yeah.
And we will do all the crappy marketing that people do. But a lot of these marketing people, they get you in, and then they like either give you a trade, like one trade that works. Maybe it works. I don't know. And they go from there. I know there's some services that do a good job, but they are few and far between. What I love about the community at Option Omega is that everyone really is trying to help each other. So if you're new to options trading, whatever, there's a Discord in here where people are just talking about stuff all day, and they're improving on each other's trades. And it's a really helpful community. I found that to be the case. So I'm going to say this real quick, and it's a humbleness to me. This small account challenge is hard. Like, I can find you some good SPX trades, and I would like to think I have. But I know Dan can give you some real good SPX trades, and that's why he's my mentor. Matt certainly can give you good SPX trades. Like, we can give you the SPX trades, and we can tell you how to manage them. Small account stuff is hard. Matt, why is small account stuff hard?
What you see that's interesting when you start looking at SPX versus SPY backtests is they do in general mirror each other, but SPX has a couple advantages that the longer you backtest and the longer time period, you really can see there's just edge in the ticker when you compare the two. And so you have, first of all, fees and commissions. And, you know, if you're doing, there are brokers that have fee and commission reduction once you trade a certain amount of SPY. So that some people balance it with that, but that's one of them. The strike selection is different. And so SPX just has kind of a plethora of strikes, of date options, and it's had that for the longest amount of time. So your backtest can be more robust. They can be more generous. The other thing is that with SPX, there's a lot of these small account strategies. They can be beneficial. The backtest show you holding them till close. So your fees get reduced even more because SPX is a regulated, it's a 1256 contract. Excuse me. The ability to hold it and just get it assigned and not have to worry about closing it early can really, some of the strategies actually really benefit from that. So when you start to add all of these things up, SPX also has the largest, longest data set. So the quality of the back tests. So you kind of add them up. And that's why a lot of people do. SPY's volume is insane for options volume. It has the most. A lot of those people are not, they're not running mechanical strategies. They are scalping or YOLOing or any of the other things that people do with options. So for sophisticated, like kind of more educated retail people who are trying to do this seriously, that's why a lot of them gravitate towards SPX. So,
but also they don't have the right, and the SPY still doesn't, or is that change the 0-day stuff, right? I mean, it just, you don't have as many expirations.
SPY has closed the gap on that. But in general, yeah, I mean, the other two tickers, I mean, it's not just SPX and SPY. The other two tickers that in general are the two most liquid, which we have all of these in OO, IWM for the Russell Small Cap Index, the 2K, and QQQ, which is, tracking NASDAQ, the tech index. And so those also have very good options volume. But again, the strike selection is just not, and the availability of the DTE is just not, it's nowhere near what SPX has. The SPX option chain is just the king.
Man, I'll just say one thing. I think strike selection is huge, what you said. But if you watch the last week, it's been horrible with the or as Charles Barkley would say, it's been terrible. Well, and the reason is because we've gone up so fast, and I think they can improve this. Here's my it's gone up so fast. You try to find 5 strikes.
Yeah.
You're doing out of the money, and stuff like that. It's brutal. And they're not, I know they can, I don't know what the process is now. I remember the process when I was trading, and you could request strikes, and they would, they can get them pretty quick. But now I just think it's not, I mean, some, on the upside especially, they'll go from 10 wide to 20 wide in the SPX. So,
yeah, I had a trade. I mentioned this the other day. I had a trade and I looked at the back test just to make sure I wasn't crazy. On Monday, it was automated. It didn't go on because I had exact strike offset selected. And when I had looked at it, it was a calendarized time spread, and they were supposed to be calendarized. And the strike selection was so bad, they were diagonalized, which has happened before. And a 5-point diagonalization is not crazy. Yeah. This was a 25-point diagonalization.
That'll change your delts pretty good.
Yeah. So it was a big enough change. And I remember thinking, I'm just not going to take this because this is so outside the norm. And when I ran the back test, 25. So it was a calendar on one side and a 25 diagonal on the other. And that was a big enough difference from the back test that I just wasn't really interested in it. And to your point, that happened because we had like a 3% move on Monday. So market makers missing the opportunity here to fill in these strikes. People would trade them if they were available.
Well, that's it. That's
Yeah. So real quick, one more caveat before we show the test. I want to do one more step back from my soccer comment earlier to my European friends.
Are you going to triple down on it?
He's going to triple down. I know it.
You can't trust someone who literally, this is my coffee. Okay. I drink my morning coffee from a blue Solo cup every morning.
Yeah.
Do you really trust someone's positions on sports from that? No, you don't, especially European. So anyway, so with that being said, I will share the test, and I was struggling yesterday to improve on the trade that we've been looking at this week. I'm going to be honest with you. It is very difficult. Matt and I played around with it for a couple hours yesterday. And lo and behold, sometimes out of the darkness comes a light. And I got a message on the Discord yesterday from the OO Show discussion channel from our friend Sujeku. Shout out Sujeku.
Look at that.
And he has indeed improved upon this test. So let's talk about what this is. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we've done is we have changed the deltas a little bit. So it's a third, and it's no longer just a long strategy. You have it's almost like almost a Rick, I would say. Would you say that, Matt?
Yes, definitely. would definitely call this a Rick.
It is, or yeah. I mean,
So 30, you're buying the 35 delta put, and you're selling the strike 4 points below that, and you're buying the 50 delta call, and you are selling the strike 4 points above that.
Yeah.
So straight away, Dan, you are long deltas going into this.
Oh yeah,
correct. Yeah,
which is fine. Long delta, long vega. Yeah.
Long delta, long vega, which actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It actually makes a lot of sense. I've seen some Ricks that work really well where it's a 2-to-1, where it's a 2-to-1 call to put.
Sure. Or 2-to-1 put to call.
Hey,
I've seen a couple of those. Prick.
Yeah. It's naming convention.
That's what that's what they are in the glossary.
Okay.
Shared on the Discord.
The glossary.
So you same thing. You're opening the trade at 9:35 and 12:30. Thank you, Stephen, for that idea. It's a great idea. You're allocating 5% of the portfolio, except for you're not, because you're actually just limiting it to one contract. Because we talked about yesterday, and I'll say this again. This is really important, I think. Most people they have too much allocation per trade.
Mm-hmm.
Just gonna say it. They have too much allocation per trade, and they you just can't lose a lot. You can't lose a lot when you have too much of allocation. So this one keeps it really, really small. And again, with 5,000 in one contract, that's probably the right allocation. I mean, again, we're not financial advisors, but that seems right. I changed a little bit. He had it at exit 359. I changed it 356. It does improve the test, but not because of that. And we talked about this 2 days ago. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in this. And this is a big deal. The reason we're doing this is I want to show some trades that people can automate. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be straight honest. I'm going to be straight honest with the kids. I will probably, just to show these things off, automate a bunch of these strategies as we do them, just so we can see the automation play out every day. I think it'd be helpful for people to see it. And so, personally speaking, I know with automation, I don't want to be having to get out 1 minute, have 60 seconds to get out, or worry about assignment risk. I'd rather have 4 minutes to just let it play out. You can set things to market. We'll be talking more about automation in the coming weeks. So, guys, any thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, I like the concept. I have two thoughts on it. One of which is just whenever people are looking at these, understand what you're looking at. So this is one contract per trade. And I think the idea of that is because it is for a small account, somebody who's just trading one lots. But just know that's going to impact the back test. It's going to mask both the CAGR and the drawdown. So just know that. Second comment from the chat, a great question. Do you think the broker would let somebody with a $500 portfolio hold a SPY option this late in the day? Great question. I would say with a $500 portfolio, probably not. But here's the thing. This is also, this backtest is a little bit different amounts, $5,000, but that also varies per broker. There are brokers who have different rules on that. Along that line of thinking, there is another ticker that is going to give you similar results. And I want to couch this because we're going to have a lot of a discussion about it. But XSP is 1/10 of what SPX is. And XSP's liquidity is fractional to SPY and SPX. But what people use it for, and what people have started using it for, and there has been an uptick in volume, especially with automated trading, people use it for strategies like this that have no exit. And this strategy would not need an exit in XSP. The reason the exit is on there is Prakash, it's exactly what you're talking about. A broker, if this is in the money, the broker's not going to, you can't take assignment. There's not enough in the account. So one option would be to backtest this with SPY and trade it XSP. Begs the question, why don't we have XSP in the backtester? That's going to take longer than 10 minutes. But the short version is there are some strategies that would backtest okay in XSP, but a lot of strategies would not. Anything that requires an exit or management in XSP, you're going to have to address the liquidity concerns. So that's my original thought on it. As a concept, I think it's got multi-year expectancy with a 500 trade data set. It'd be interesting to backtest this into farther environments. I like that it's staggered in during the day, and it's a little bit curve fit, but barely curve fit. And I haven't back tested this exact one. A lot of people don't do Ricks on Monday. And so it'd be interesting to see if you take Monday out, would it be even better? So that was a whole yappuccino I just served up. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think those are all good. I mean, the first thing I think of is dealing with a lot of newer folk also, the stress in dealing in the SPY of, am I going to get assigned? And because you're holding it towards the end, and the stress ball, that's where XSP, but I agree with everything is, XSP.
Hotel California.
Yeah.
Pretty much you can only check into it.
Yeah, if you could deal, but other than the assignment, I think it's getting used to, again, this type of strategy. It's like you got to develop calluses on your hand. When you're going to trade a long, this strategy is a long delta, long vega. You're not going to have an 80% win rate or a 75% win rate, and you could lose 3 in a row. It's like, what's the journey of this trade? The journey of this trade is, I want a guy from the south side of Chicago doing this thing. I mean, just in my own little world,
you talk about a pope.
Kind of tough
you talk
guy.
About a pope. You want a pope.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. You're right. The south side is the pope. The pope. But because when you trade something like that, it's one thing. I think people inherently, if you tell someone to trade something that wins 85% of the time, they're like, okay, I won't get my hands too dirty. But you tell someone to take a trade like this and say, you could lose 3 times in a row. You might win 50%, but you got to wait. And you don't know which, there are going to be a few days where it really kicks it, stick with it. And I just think it takes a tougher, again, I don't know what the right word is, a tougher trader to trade through some strategies like this, where they'll work, but it's going to be a tougher journey. And as the movie says, can you handle the truth? Are you going to stick with it? Because it's one thing in a 90% probability, or in a trade. I know, Troy, you showed something last week that was, I think it was 100% winners or something, or the week. And so this is just, I think people from the psychological end need to look at trades and say, especially when you look at the log, and you look at the log here, can you handle, 2 or 3 reds in a row? Will that? And anyway, it's like the Knicks defense. They're tough. They're going to bruise you.
Yeah, but can you handle them being run into the ground every single game and playing too much?
Yeah, I see
overexposing.
I see in the chat here from Tom. That's a great one. It's not stress until you get assigned $2 million worth of SPY shares in the middle of the night.
And also the chat again, XSP. So XSP has not been around that long, and we've been talking about this topic for years, but the short version is, yes, absolutely. The people that have had success in the O community, it's a one-way ticket, and there are lots of back tests that you can check into. You can get in the trade. The problem with XSP is getting out of the trade, even sometimes close to the money. But there is a possibility that we would have XSP on the automation platform. So there's a feature request on Canny. Hit it up if you're interested, I believe. So Troy, I love the concept though. Shout out to the chat for continuing to iterate on the sack the small count challenge. And again, I will give a challenge to the community. I've played around with a lot of ricks, and I've done them cricks and pricks. And I wanted to call the pricks Puerto Rican reverse iron condors.
Troy, I'm leaving right
now.
I know.
That was because PR where I'm from is abbreviated Puerto Rico. That's the only reason why. And that was shut down. But I would love it if somebody could come up with a put ratio Rick that has maybe even a higher MAR, because they are for sure, I think, out there. And that's one of the cool things about backtesting is the flexibility that you can iterate on these ideas quickly. So maybe there's a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 or a 3-to-2 that is interesting to look at.
Yeah, and I'll say this to the point about the 5,000 and the margin. I mean, most brokerages, I think now, I mean, I don't even remember now, honestly, but I think it's 2,500 you have to have margin, and you usually have to have margin to do spreads. I know that's level, but they're not going to let you have level 3 without margin, basically. I mean,
That's right.
That stuff works. And so with spreads and things like that, they're definitely going to take it off. I haven't seen, they might take it off at 230. Some brokerages for sure will. I mean, I've certainly, when I was first trading, had small account, and there was stuff they would close out, but I can't remember. I think they maybe closed out at 3 on equity positions a lot of times. I don't think I've ever had them close out on SPY. Again, it's so brokerage dependent, their rules on this stuff.
It is. It does change.
But to Matt's point, I mean, eventually I think the answer with some of this stuff is into cash settled, where you can just set it and forget it. Because this is the point of these type of trades. You really do want to set, everything has a caveat. So like the reason we're not doing SPX is because $5,000 for SPX is really, really tough. Your drawdowns are going to be really, really big. I mean, say for instance, this trade, I mean, let's look at this real quick. We can do the math in our heads pretty fast. This trade is going to be about anywhere from $1,200 to $3,000 in SPX. Yeah. We would be irresponsible to tell you with a $5,000 account, put a trade on like this.
Yeah.
There's reasons to do it. I mean, it's cash settled. It's great, but it is the case. Again, we're thinking differently. We're thinking in a small way where it's like, well, can the person with 5,000 not play? And what I'm arguing is no. There's the playground for you. It might be a small playground. It might have some different rules. You might have to buckle up when you get on the swing set, which is annoying, But I've got some kids that buckle up on the swing set and they enjoy it. So you just got to get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I've changed. At first, when I was teaching newer students, I would have them go into SPY, and I still think SPY is great. I just never liked SPY. I know Tom Sosnoff, a friend, but they love SPY. They've traded SPY through the year. I don't know if he's changed to SPX at all.
Sure.
But they've traded it. But I tell you, I've looked, I'd rather people get used to the vehicle they're going to trade, which is SPX. And you can, again, even with just getting used to some trades, and most times normal volatility environments, I think, an iron condor in SPX, you can do a 5 wide for $400. You can do a 3 wide calendar for, depending on the volatility, but you can do something under $500. You can do some of these expected move butterflies for $100, $150. So I'd rather you be in the vehicle that you're going to be in. And then once you get comfortable, up it a little bit. One thing I want to ask you guys, do you see much? I mean, the biggest thing obviously with a small account is it's that day trading rule. Wouldn't you say that if you have an account under 25 grand, if you do 2 or 3 trades in a week where you get out the same day, they're going to ding you? Is it still like that?
Yeah. Pattern day trader. Again, I think the idea is kind of the answer is some of these strategies that you do in a cash settled vehicle that you don't manage. That you're comfortable with the risk reward, you're comfortable with it going completely against you, whether it's a credit or a debit trade, and it's unmanaged.
That's right.
And those strategies do exist. They are out there.
And we'll be showing them. So, I mean, again, this is an idea of saying we're just switching philosophy a little bit and leading up to automation, because automation's coming soon. And so we want to think through this for new beginners, new traders.
That's
and you
right.
guys are all smart. The chat's smart. So there's pluses and minuses. Real quick, we need to roll. But I mean, Dan, to your point, I'd feel much more comfortable telling someone with $5,000 to do a SPX butterfly than a SPY butterfly, because you can get the cost really small.
Right. Narrow it. Yeah.
Yeah. Long gamma stuff like this, it's tougher.
Absolutely.
And so you have to change vehicles sometimes for size. But anyway, guys, listen, I will say this final thing. Hey, let's finish strong. Chat, discussion, improve this test. We got one more day. Can we get this sucker to 6? Can we get this sucker to 6?
6 more.
All right, guys. Be safe. Thank you, Jpow, again for visiting us today, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah.